Your body is reading the energy of a room long before your mind interprets the moment. The question is, are you listening? Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Energetics. My name's Sarah, and I am so grateful that you're here today. Today, we're going to be diving into energetics for everyday life, reading the room and reading yourself, and what that means. So, let's grab a tea, snuggle in, get cozy, listen as you drive or go along your walk today, and we're going to dive right in. So, what do people actually mean by energy? In science, energy has a very specific meaning. Energy is the capacity to do work by definition, and this includes things like electrical energy, heat or thermal energy, chemical energy, movement, and potential, which is stored. So, nothing about emotions or vibes is part of the scientific definition, which I want to be very clear because we're not talking about that type of energy today. We're not talking about scientifically defined energy. Today, we're going to be talking about energy as in subtle cues, the energetics which we perceive by patterning and exposure to someone's micro expressions, social context, tone of voice, facial expressions, breathing patterns, posture, body language. So, when it comes to energy, our brain is constantly scanning for these types of cues, these energetic cues, without you even noticing. It's a survival skill, and it's a real process called neuroception. Neuroception is your nervous system's automatic senses whether someone feels safe, stressed, angry, open, and distant is all a part of neuroception. So when we speak on reading energy scientifically, we're actually reading a nervous system signal from other people. When we look at energy and the spiritual meaning of energy reading, which is something that if you're here, I'm sure you have heard a lot through energetic practitioners like myself, we're speaking in a metaphysical sense. So energy means something different. People might use the term energy to refer to someone's vibe. I hate that word, but someone's vibe, their aura, their emotional field, their chakra flow, the energetic blockages, or intuitive feelings. Practices within this capacity of energy might include Reiki, hands on healing, aura readings, tarot, intuitive body scans, crystal readings, bioenergetics. But these ideas and these ways of healing, even though they are ancient practices, really aren't supported by mainstream science. Now, Heart Math Institute has done a lot of work to explain and explore these metaphysical spaces, but they can still feel meaningful or grounding to people because they may help them. They might help them tune into emotions, reflect, slow down, connect with intuition, and feel seen or supported. These ideas, even though they aren't mainstream, these practices are very real. They have a huge impact on your nervous system, on your capacity to feel safe, on your ability to allow yourself to come out of fight or flight, fawn or freeze, and really settle in to the state of homeostasis, the state of being able to just let your guard down and breathe deeply. A lot of the times we are overstimulated by everything that's going on, not only in the world around us, but in our own mind and body. So these practices of metaphysics, these practices of the woo woo, spiritual energy that gets labeled woo woo, is actually very valid and very real. And it only takes one session, I truly believe, with a very practiced practitioner to believe that there's something that happens within the body when you receive an energetic attunement or even sitting in meditation, right? Taking that deep breath that really allows us to understand that there's more to science and to energy than the scientific definition. So, when I'm speaking on energy, we might feel as though these two worlds actually do feel quite similar, even though they're defined quite differently through scientific and spiritual explanations. Yes, they're different, but both are often describing the same human experience, which is sensing feelings, sensing moods, intentions, and emotional states. The difference is just the language, right? One uses nervous system psychology, one uses intuition and symbolism. And this is where I'm talking about, the spiritual meaning of energy and the metaphysical meaning of energy. The scientific meaning of energy is something very different. It's that measurable baseline. So in this, for point of reference, I'm talking about metaphysical and spiritual definitions here. So one is nervous system psychology and the other one is intuition and symbolism. And when we look at the scientific place in which energy is, we're going to be talking about things like neuroception. I have a podcast episode where I went into neuroception and CPTSD and how that relates to our energy and our energetic body. We are talking about reading body language, right? We can gauge someone's body language, emotional attunement, mirror neurons. We're talking about stress signals and hormones, emotional resonance. When we're talking about spiritual intuition and that woo-woo quote, woo-woo energy that some people speak on, myself included, I'm talking about intuition, energetic sensitivity, reading someone's aura, empathetic or intuitive downloads, right? That direct communication from source, energy exchange between two people. We're talking about matching frequencies. Both of these, both scientifics, that metaphysic, scientific, pathway and the spiritual woo-woo pathway, both describe human connection. They're just different frameworks. So in order for us to really understand how to read the room, we have to know our baseline. So before we enter a space, I encourage you to try this. So we're going into a space, whether it is the grocery store, whether it is a meeting at work, whether it is a school, whether it is just hanging out with friends. I want you to take 10 seconds. Ask yourself, one, how does my body feel right now? Even just right now as you're listening, how does my body actually feel? And be truthful with yourself. What's my breathing like? What is my breathing doing? Is my breath high up in my chest? Is it expanded into the belly? Or is it moving into the back body and externally pressing out to the sides like an accordion, opening up nice and deep and really allowing that capacity to expand? Do I feel neutral? Do I feel excited? Do I feel tired or calm? How am I feeling? And is there any tension in my body? Am I noticing that my pelvis is tensing? Maybe my jaw is really tight, or my stomach is turning, or my chest feels a little bit like there's some tension there. By doing this, by having that 10-second assessment of how you're actually feeling before you enter a place, it really gives your nervous system a starting point. It gives you that awareness of where you're beginning. And the magic here is if you know what you feel like before you enter into these spaces, anything different after you enter the room is information for you to decode what is actually happening in this space and what is yours and what is theirs. So yours or theirs energy, we're just going to simply notice what changes when you walk in. Right after you step into the room, you have yourself grounded, you've done your assessment, and now you're going to step into the room and ask, did my breathing just change? Like, how many times have you walked into a room and everyone's like, hey, 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 and coming at you, and your breath might get a little bit short. So just noticing that. Did you automatically bring those shoulders up to your ears just by me mentioning a lot of people coming at you, right? When you walk into a space, wherever that space is, and you tense or relax, that's an indicator of what is going on within that space and how you're responding to who's in the room. If we're tensing and we're getting really shallow breath, maybe that's not a space for us. However, if our breath slows, we become relaxed, maybe we have our mood shift suddenly into the state of joy, Or maybe we feel like we can just allow our emotions to flood out of us and maybe we start crying because we're actually in that state where we feel safe. That is information for you to judge. Am I in a space that is really comforting and aligned with who I am? Is this a space for me, or is this a space or a table that I'm really maybe not welcome at, or I don't want to sit at anymore? Do we feel more awake or drained when we're in that space, or even when we leave? That's an indicator too. We've all been around people or individuals or circumstances which drain us. What can we take from that? Did you feel pulled toward or away from the space? Did you feel like, ooh, I need to get out of here? And then the mind thought, maybe we should try and leave, right? If something changes really fast, it's oftentimes the room. It's the room and it's not you. And what I mean by that is if we walk into a space and all of a sudden all these things are happening really quickly, it's a reflection, one, either of how you're responding to the room because of the energy within that room space, right? So when I say your breathing changes, your shoulders tense, your mood shifts tightly. If you were walking into that space nice and calm, you know it's the room's effect on you. So the people or the space maybe isn't meshing with where you're at right now, and that's okay. When it's something like you start to get a headache, you feel nauseous, these can be anxious triggers or side effects rather. When you feel that immediate need to get out of Dodge, we want to really pay attention to that and honor that. If you live with anxiety, like I live with anxiety and I've gone into places where I'm like, get me out. But after the first few minutes, I'm like, okay, I can settle in. I can actually relax. I can move through these initial states and really allow myself to just be present and be at ease. That's when I know it's me and that's my anxiety speaking. And it shifts, the energy shifts, right? That's my energy. But when it continues to compile and pour on, and I can't shift at that, even when I'm very conscious of how I'm feeling and responding or reacting to the space. I'm doing my breath work, I'm doing some visualizations, I'm scanning to see, is there really anything here that I should be aware of? And I'm still feeling like this isn't a good space for me, that's when I know it's actually the energy of the space, of the people within it, or the circumstances within that space, and I need to leave. So, this is a really good example of neuroceptions, your body's automatic safety scanner reacting. And we always want to pay attention to those things, right? Our body will read the space and the room and the circumstance before our logical mind can. So I have a really great mentor, Kelly Elston, and something that she always preaches that, your energetic center that within your gut is really a big one to listen to. Your mind is also something we want to listen to, and your heart. And if your gut, if that heart and your head are all reacting like you need to get out at the same time, or even just two of those, you need to get out, right? You wouldn't walk down a dark alley and ignore that sensation. We don't want to do that in our day-to-day life either. So slowing down, scanning the space, scanning yourself, really taking that moment to know where your baseline is before you walk into that space and noticing how it shifts with the energy of that space you're walking into is really key here. And also being aware, is this my anxiety? Is this maybe my social anxiety, which fades, or maybe it's a pattern you have and are living with? Or is this actually maybe a threat or maybe a space that is not healthy? So, the next thing we can do is really slow your body so we can observe instead of absorb. So, when we're in these spaces, when we feel overwhelmed or unsure, you can try this. So, you're going to simply take a big breath in. And I say simply, I know it's not always simple. Take a big breath in, drop your shoulders, and exhale longer than you inhale, whether that's a second, whether that's 6 or 8 seconds. So, taking a breath in and exhale, I want you to unclench your jaw and loosen your hands. When your body calms, even just a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit, you can feel it. And you can then sense, hey, what is mine here and what am I picking up from others? You become not a reactor, but an observer. So you're no longer the sponge. You're taking back that control of the situation. What is mine and what am I picking up on for others? So that's where we do that reflection on the initial assessment. I want you to then do a boundary check. So what you're going to do is, if I left the room, so this is the question you're asking yourself. If I left the room right now, would I still feel like this? If I left the room right now, would I still feel this anxiousness? If I left the room right now, would I still feel this fear? If I left the room right now. And if the answer feels like a no, then that's the room's energy. That's the space that you're in. That's a reaction that you're having to the energy of a space that you are in. If it feels like yes, I would still be having this reaction, and that's probably your own stuff, right? And what I mean by that is, if you leave the room and that thought of leaving the room still has you feeling anxious. So what I mean by that, let me just clarify, because I know that was kind of jumbled. If I'm sitting in a room and I'm feeling anxious, and I think to myself, if I left the room, would I still feel anxious right now? And my answer is yes. Then I know that's actually my brain, or something else is going on, which is causing my anxiety. It might have just been a divine timing where it was also happening as I was moving into this space. It could be something in the back of the mind, in the subconscious, that's coming forward. So just owning your own stuff is really important, and deciphering, if you left the room, would you still be feeling like this? That's going to give you your opportunity to gauge what your next steps are. Now, we also want to look for patterns. Some rooms constantly bring out tension, ease, excitement, pressure, quiet, chaos, all those things. So if you experience chases, if you experience changes based on environments, then you're going to be sensing the room's energy. And if you feel the same no matter where you are when you're in these pattern states, that's your internal energy. So if you are constantly feeling tension or anxiousness in big group environments like a school, like a concert, a grocery store, then that's probably your own internal energy, right? That's something else. But if you are moving into a space and you're all of a sudden getting this hit like something's not right here, that is the energy of a space. And it could also be good, right? Think about it when you walk into a happy environment and you feel the excitement of the room. That's also your body responding to the energy of a room, quote unquote, a high vibe, right? So just knowing that not feeling energy is not always bad, and sometimes it's really good. So, there is a little bit of science behind this. There's actually a lot of science behind this, and slowly we're catching up. Like I mentioned before, the Heart Math Institute is a great one to look into. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a lot of tangible research on energy and the human energy systems. It's definitely worth looking into for him. Now, your body is constantly going to be reading others' nervous systems through body language, through tone, facial expression, even like their pacing, their cadence of tone, of how fast they're walking, moving, changing subjects, the emotional atmosphere as well. Your mirror neurons are automatically reflecting on what's going on around you. So, knowing that, you can allow yourself some ease and some peace and some grace by saying something like, my body is reacting to them, not me. If someone is giving off a facial expression of annoyance as you're speaking, that is their reaction to you. That is not your reaction to you. Now, if they give you a look that reminds you of maybe your mom when you were a little girl, or says something in a tone that reminds you of a past situation, that could be you. If that starts to activate something in you, that's you. They are not aware of that past connection to their tone of voice or their facial expression. So just being able to decipher that is really important. Now, we're always going to have to decipher, is this mine? Is this yours? And again, drawing on these little tangible tools, like what was I feeling before this moment? If the answer doesn't match what you're feeling now, that's the room in a general sense, right? When I say that, I mean like walking into a room. Now, yours or theirs emotions is where we take it another step. How to tell if someone's emotion is yours or theirs is to, number one, again, checking the origin of the emotion. Did this feeling come out of nowhere? When I walked into the room and I felt this huge wave of grief, that's maybe the grief of the room. We walk into a funeral, although it's morbid to speak about, think about how your energy can shift from, feeling however you were. Maybe you're feeling very good and very stable, very neutral, and you walk into the space and you're overwhelmed with the sensation of grief and tears, and you've all of a sudden find yourself with that lump in your throat. That could be the energy of the room. Did something specific trigger this inside of me? If we can use the funeral, that wasn't the best example, but if we look at that, right? If we're going into a funeral and you're feeling quite anxious and quite sad and you're overwhelmed, as soon as you stepped in, you can honor that maybe is yours. And both can be true. You can have the sensation of the energy of the room of grief wash over you as you're also experiencing your own. Your own emotions usually have a story or a reason behind them, even if it's really small. But emotions from others often feel very sudden, like a gust of wind that hits you. So yours is like a slow build, and others is like a wall just slamming into you. So knowing that both can be true is really important here, and I'm reminding you to have that grace, right? Just because you're feeling something uncomfortable doesn't mean to leave the room. It's to notice it, become aware of it, sit in it, and let it move through you. We don't want to stay there. So, part of noticing it is noticing where the emotion is living within your body. Your emotions kind of have a signature blueprint within your body. So, for example, stress usually equals some tension, some tightness. Stress can be a headache, tension in the shoulders or the neck. Sadness could be within the throat, a lump in the throat, or crying through the eyes, right? Maybe it's a pain in the heart, that heaviness. Frustration could be in the jaw, that tension. Think of when you're frustrated and you clench your teeth, right? Anxiety can be in the stomach, feeling nauseous. Think of it before a race. Maybe you have to run to the washroom, or you feel like you could vomit before you say a speech. That's anxiety, and that's going to live within your stomach. Okay, so if you feel something in a place that's maybe unusual for you, that might be emotional energy from someone else. So, again, having your baseline, checking in with yourself frequently is really important to understanding and decoding what's mine and what's theirs. Now, knowing too that your nervous system mirrors other people is really important. So, your brain has mirror neurons, which means that when someone is sad, your brain can reflect that as well. And when someone is stressed, your body can tense. And when a room is upbeat, you can feel lighter. Think about going to a dance party and just having fun. And maybe you had a really crummy day, but you got there, you stepped into that space, the music's going, people are laughing and smiling and having a good time. That energy is upbeat, and that can in tune make you feel lighter as well. So sometimes you're just mirroring, you're not actually feeling your own emotion, but that's okay. It can be a good thing sometimes. A good question to ask yourself again, is this mine? Or is this reflecting on the room or someone nearby? And sometimes we can just go with the flow and enjoy the wave of bliss and enjoy that moment. We don't always have to be intellectual and in our minds. We can enjoy the ride. So, one thing I want to say about emotions, when they are feeling like pressure, right? Our own emotions can feel very familiar, they can feel very personal. You have a sense of how you generally feel when you're sad or when you're happy, they're usually connected to your thoughts. Your emotions are connected to your thoughts and part of who you are. But emotions from others can feel a little bit foggy or heavy or even like a buzzy. They can feel unclear or not connected to your own story. So sometimes you can be like, why do I feel this way? Where did that come from? That's generally a sign that they actually came from someone else and they're not yours to hold. So sometimes saying back to sender or I let go is a good way to signal the mind to shift gears and step back into self rather than taking on that of everyone else. So, if you're somewhere and this is happening and you're finding yourself taking on others' emotions, you can take a quick 5-second break or 10-second or a few minutes, whatever you need. Step into the hallway, a bathroom. I like to step into the washroom and run the cold water and put my wrists and hands under the cold water. I like to take a nice big slow breath. So, I like to ground into my feet, maybe even wiggle my toes, and bring that inhale breath up from the toes all the way up the front body to the nose, and envision it come up and over my head, and then exhale, sweeping everything away as it exhales down my back body from head to heels. And I like to do that a few times to just recenter. And then again, just noticing how you feel and moving forward. Listening to your mental dialogue is also important. As much as we don't like to do that, we need to be honest with ourselves. I don't like it when I feel upset because I'm worried about. Emotions you pick up from others have no words. Generally, it's just a sensation. So if you are able to have some dialogue as to why you're feeling a certain way, it's really gonna be able to help you decode, oh, I have a dialogue, this is generally mine. Or, oh, I don't know why I actually feel like this. There's no story here, so it might not be yours. And then when it comes to emotions, right? There's generally two categories: sensed emotions, other people's, right? Sudden, diffuse, not personal, feel like atmosphere. Remember that party scene? Or it could be internal, connected to your needs or fears, parts of your patterning. Really important there. They're familiar, they're stronger, clearer, and they're more yours, right? They're familiar to you. So let's talk about some real life examples of when we might be deciphering, is this mine, is this yours, and how to tell. So think about when you're hanging out with a friend who's being really quiet. Ooh, automatically tension in the chest for me. You're having a good day, but your friend is unusually quiet or off. A talking point that you might have internally is that check-in, right? I felt fine before I saw them, but now I'm feeling heavy. That must be their mood, not mine, right? Your emotional shift matched their vibe, not your own. If someone is feeling recluse and down and quiet, and they're usually upbeat and cheery, you know that logically that something's off, but you're also going to feel that energetically within your body. So knowing and deciphering that can help you take those next steps. You can decipher what's yours and then allow yourself to sit in that space and in a capacity to hold space for them to move through what they need to move through, and acknowledge that this is their sensation and be able to show up with a little bit more openness for them as they need you to. Now, say you're at a busy mall, right? Say it's Christmas and you're at a busy mall, you're going into a crowded space and suddenly you feel overwhelmed or really wired or exhausted. This might not feel personal, and generally it's just a lot of nervous system signaling in one place. Think about it as, yeah, just that, a lot of nervous system signaling in one place, like bumper cars, right? When there's a lot of bumper cars, things are going to bounce off of each other. Cars are going to bounce into each other. You're going to bump into each other, and it's going to feel really heightened. With bumper cars, you can feel every time you get plummeted. With energy, you generally don't. It feels a bit overwhelming. It can feel tired. It can have a number of different labels and sensations here. So your body is mirroring the room in this situation. Crowded spaces send so many emotional cues. Your body is going to automatically react even if you aren't actually thinking about it. So just know that that is an example of when we're in a space that is causing a different sensation within ourselves energetically. So very different from our friends, yet very similar as well. Another example, maybe you were in a good mood, but after reading your group chat, you feel irritated or pulled down. Nothing has changed in your life. You simply just read a message that really dragged you down. This is due to the conversation, and this is not something internal. This is a digital energy, and it has to do with social cues. Your brain is going to mirror the tension of the tone of the text. So knowing that and being able to shift out of it, you can do that somatically, taking some jumps, getting some fresh air, shaking it out, changing the energy of your space, putting on a great song and dancing around the room too, and saying, you know what, I see this, I hear it. I'm gonna step away for a moment and recalibrate my energy before I re-engage in this conversation. Energy within the home is something we can't get away from. We all live in homes, we've grown up in families, and sometimes you walk into the living room and instantly feel tension, even though no one's saying anything. It could be residual from a fight that just happened. Maybe two siblings were going at it, maybe your parents were having a disagreement. When there's tension here that you weren't feeling before you walked into the room, that's your body reading the energy of the space. It's not creating the emotion itself, it's reading it based on what is lingering in that energetic space. Your nervous system here is picking up on nonverbal signals like posture, silence, or pacing, or just complete dynamics and energetics. So these are some interesting ways in which you can practically apply these concepts and understand them a little bit deeper in your day-to-day life. So the question then becomes like, Sarah, how do I stay centered? How do I stay grounded? How do I navigate these situations? And really, it's just about one, getting that baseline. I know I've been like a broken record here, getting your baseline. How do you feel on a day-to-day basis? How did you feel before you entered that space? Being curious about yourself, getting to know your own energy, and then spending 10 seconds just simply noticing your shoulders, your breath, your jaw, your mood, right? When you know you're neutral, it's so much easier to notice when something isn't yours. And that's when I work with people, I can pick up on their energy and what's going on within their body so easily is because I've spent hours and hours and days and years on end really tapping into my own states and understanding what is mine and what is theirs. And it blows people away that I can sense these things, but you can do this too. Your brain is constantly comparing new signals to your baseline. So that's going to keep you steady. That's going to really allow you to decipher mine or theirs. It's going to allow you to adjust and readjust to a space as you're in a social setting or alone, right, with the social media or whatever that is. The next tangible task I'm going to bestow to you is slowing your exhale. My goodness, this is a big one. This is something that I've taught my kids, right? Whenever we're feeling like there's been an energetic shift, taking that inhale for 3 and exhale for 5. Or maybe you're going to do box breathing where you inhale, exhale, hold for the same amount of time, right? 3, 3, 3, and 3. Inhale, hold it for 3, exhale for 3, and just stay still for 3, right? Inhale for 3, hold for 3, exhale for 3, pause for 3. Why this works is because it anchors your body internally instead of reacting to an external emotion. You're coming back to the present moment, to the now. You're connecting your mind, body, and breath all on one line instead of being scattered and one's ramped up, the other one is confused, and the other one's like, hey, don't forget about me. We're bringing them all onto one concise line of emotion and energy so we can feel more at ease. I want you to then create an inner boundary. Number 3, right? The third tool that I like to use is creating an inner boundary, saying in your mind, I can notice this without absorbing it. I'm going to witness this, but I'm not going to take it on. I'm going to allow them to vent, but I'm not going to take it on myself. This is not for me to fix. It feels small and sometimes silly, and sometimes It can even feel a little guilty. But what it does is it switches you into observer mode, not sponge mode, which is going to allow you to show up with a lot more presence for the person that you are sitting with. I've already mentioned this, but another tool that I like to use is feeling into your feet or your seat. This is grounding 101. This is baseline. This is what I teach. Again, my kiddos and anyone who I come in contact with is you don't have to do it anywhere, or you don't have to do it anywhere specific, rather. You can do this while you're standing in line at the grocery store. You can do it in a family setting. You can do it out with friends. You just simply notice how your feet are feeling, or your bottom if you're sitting. Give your feet a little wiggle. See how the chair supports you. It's just simply reorienting your physical state of space to where you're at. So bringing that awareness into your physical space, not the room's space, not the place that you're staying at, or if you're riding the bus, not the bus's emotional space, but your physical space. Okay, so naming what you notice, right? Being honest with yourself. This room is anxious. There's a lot of pressure here today. Ooh, someone's upset. And then still adding, and I'm still me, right? Noticing what is in the space, giving it a name, giving it a voice, but then adding, and I'm still me. And I'm maybe not feeling like that, and that's okay. So just labeling, in this case, it's going to separate you from your environment, and it's going to allow that boundary again to go a little bit deeper. So, there's so many different boundaries and tools and movements and centering questions we can do to really allow ourselves a micro break and a recentering or a shift in an awareness to take place, so that we can move through and differentiate between what is mine and what is theirs, how we can read the room with more ease. Overall, whether you are, in a state of excitement or noticing these shifts taking place, always know that you can take these micro breaks by simply breathing in that present place that you're in, whether it's a meeting or school or in the car, hearing, I don't know, Daddy Shark like 5 more times, or K-pop Demon Hunters for the 1 zillionth time, right? Taking that breath can really help. Wiggling your toes can help. Feeling the seat support you. You can get a nice drink of water. You can look out a window. You can gaze around the room and just begin to notice things. So changing environments can help. Bringing awareness to different things can help. Taking a breath to shift can help. Your energetic body is going to react to changing environments. That's something we're never going to be able to escape from. But your superpower is going to be being able to reset, but also after you figure out what is actually yours. So your energetic body is your very first social skill. Everything else comes second. So knowing your baseline is so important, and I cannot stress this enough. Knowing your baseline is your most powerful social skill. And so as we kind of close this podcast for today, I really would love to hear anything that resonated from you. Leave a comment, share on social media. Please follow, like, and share this podcast. It really helps reach others who might be struggling or might really need to hear these tools that I spoke on today. I don't get paid from this podcast, so any share, anything to help promote, I really do truly appreciate. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to learn more, I have many videos on YouTube and many other podcasts about neuroception, PTSD, decoding the energetic body, all those things for you to dive in and learn more. These are free resources. If you are at a place where you're feeling stuck and you need some help, you don't know where to go, you've tapped out that with the medical system, things just aren't feeling good for you, I do 15-minute free consultation calls where I can see if I can help you really come back home to yourself, really find that sense of calm and ease. So if that's something you'd like to do, you can hit up the links in my bio or in the footnotes of this podcast. I work one on one with women, men, and children around the world. So feel free to reach out. I would be honored to sit with you on your journey. And besides that, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and take care. And thank you so much for listening to yet another episode of Beyond Energetics.